Kia ora guys, my name is Max and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit more lighthearted than my last one. It's a simple take on who I would personally select for the British and Irish Lions. Every single coach has their own different philosophies, every single person has their own ideas about how to play rugby, and I am no different from Andy Farrell. I think that most of my picks are probably going to be quite similar to who I think he would pick, but if you want to see who I think he would pick, go to the video I've got on screen right here. As for my own opinions, my squad is going to be a squad of 38 rather than 37 because I think it's a bit more important to have that extra pinch of depth in the back three. For my squad I'm going to have 12 Irish players, 14 English players, and you can read the rest about who I've got as an overall arching theme of my squad in this graphic you've now got on the screen. I don't want to waste any more time, so I'm going to get to 9, the most important position on the pitch, and say who I have for my scrum halves. No surprise, it's pretty much the same as exactly the same as who I think Andy Farrell's going to pick. It is sadly the weakest position up for grabs for the Lions. There's not too much talent in this position. Thomas Williams has got a lot of skill, but he plays for Gloucester and for Wales, so is just too used to losing, and you can't have somebody that's too used to losing as one of your game drivers. Jamison Gibson-Park, therefore, is the first name on the team sheet, the clear bloke who, if you are building a game plan around one person, he is the guy to do this from. He has a lightning quick pass which can activate so many potential game plans centred around your attack. Alex Mitchell has a lot of natural flair that I don't think England nor Northampton have really got out of him. So therefore I'm going to give him a bit more reins to play his natural style of rugby and see how he goes if Gibson-Park does get injured. And with Conor Murray sadly retiring, Ben White is going to be the next cap off the rank for me. As we go to fly halves, I would not have Sam Prendergast anywhere near the Irish squad, let alone the British and Irish Lions. He cannot tackle, and I've not seen any evidence he can handle the pressure of international rugby. Jack Crowley on the other hand, excellent. He stepped into the boots of Johnny Sexton like he'd been there for a long time. He's in the middle of his career, has a great reputation of being able to close out games when things are starting to get a little bit too tense, and Jack Crowley just has amazing mental fortitude that I don't think enough people appreciate. Marcus Smith, however, will be a bit more complementary to Jamison Gibson-Park, so I would probably have him as my starting 10. Able to cover fullback as well, it means you can have room for a bit more of a utility type player on the bench rather than a specialist for one particular position because Marcus Smith can drop back. As for my third choice, I'm going to go for Finn Smith. A very reliable tackler and looking like he's got the goods to become a pretty good international player. I think Marcus Smith is vastly superior, but Finn Smith does have lots of potential, and he's also shown the evidence that he can manage a game in tough circumstances, unlike Finn Russell and Sam Prendergast. I'm not here to select the British and Irish Cubs. I'm here to select the British and Irish Lions. And what the Lions need is an alpha dog who can direct a team. That is why, as we go over to the midfield, I'm going to select Owen Farrell as my captain. The reason I want to have Owen Farrell as my captain is because he knows what it's like to win a tour down in Australia, having done it before in 2013. While Racing 92 have not had him kicking the goals, he's getting minutes under his belt there, and he's getting himself back into the swing of things, ready to peak for the Lions tour. I do think he's probably going to retire after the actual thing, but given the fact that he would be the most capped player in my squad, and having been on 3 tours before, having also captained England numerous times and achieving quite a fair lot of trophies with them as well, I think he's quite an obvious choice for captain. As for the other 2 midfielders who I think are likely to be in a matchday 23 I would select, I'd go for Bundy Aki and Robbie Henshaw, having previously been on Lions tours with Farrell, may I add, in the past. They've both played a huge amount of minutes together for the Irish, so are very obvious contenders. Gary Ringrose, on the other hand, I don't think I would select. Gary Ringrose I don't think is as reliable on defence as the other 2 Irish guys, so instead I will go for 2 more midfielders both from Scotland. Tom Jordan is going to be my utility guy to come off the bench there, though, and I'm not going to bother having a specialist outside back cover on the bench because Owen Farrell and Marcus Smith can both play other positions, therefore Tom Jordan can just be a straight up utility covering everything. Hugh Jones is the best number 13 in the world, so if I was the Lions coach, I would quite obviously take the guy. As you go into the outside backs, I mentioned how I wanted to have a bit more depth, and I'm proving my statement by selecting 6 outside backs rather than 5, as I think Andy Farrell is going to go for. I would select Duhan van der Merwe and Darcy Graham as my starting wingers. They just complement each other so well. Van der Merwe for the power, Darcy Graham for the pace and the step, and both are very elite jackal threats who will not let you down on defence either. As backups to them, I've got Henry Arundel as possibly the closest like-for-like replacement of Duhan van der Merwe. In comparison to Tommy Freeman, he's much more of a ball-carrying threat. Freeman is agile, he's a bit of an all-rounder, but he's what I would call a jack-of-all-trades, a master of none. Henry Arundel, on the other hand, is incredibly athletic and powerful, and just beats defenders for fun, man. He's such an obvious choice if you want to replicate Van der Merwe's power. As for Blair Murray, the fact that he used to play fly halfback when he was living in New Zealand, I think he'd be able to help out with distribution and add a lot of nuances to a game plan. If Darcy Graham goes down, he's also got a lightning step and there's quite a similar build, so could fill in quite easy. As for the fullbacks, I've gone for 2 guys who will be able to dominate in the air and counter Joseph Suaalii. Blair Kinghorn, who was 6'4", and Freddie Stewart, who was 6'5". Suaalii's a pretty big fullback, so you just naturally want to go for somebody who can counter Suaalii in the air, and I think these two are the best for the job. Blair Kinghorn, being a better defender, is going to be the guy I would start at fullback. I think my forward pack is probably going to be a bit more straightforward, because when it comes to forwards, you can probably just give them a bit more leeway regarding form and use form as your main selection criteria. For hookers, I'm not going to do anything different than I think Andy Farrell's going to do. I'm going to go for Dan Sheehan, Ronan Kelleher and Jamie George, because no matter how many mental gymnastics some haters will use about, oh, so-and-so's from Ireland, so-and-so's from England, they are the 3 best men for the job. The fact that Jamie George has played over 100 tests his stuff as well, that is why I'm so grateful I got to take this photo of him back when the English were in camp here in New Zealand. Jamie George would be my vice captain for the tour because he's a heck of a leader, and I would trust him to come off the bench in the last 30 or so minutes when the pressure is craziest. As we go to the props, I'm going to select 5 of the same guys I think Andy Farrell will pick. Andrew Porter, Ellis Genge and Pierre Schoeman, all the obvious choices at loose head prop. Tight head is where things just get a little bit more complicated, guys. I get it. Tadhg Furlong is the best prop in Irish history. I totally get that. But I do think that the guy's form is waning. I do think the guy is starting to look like he's a bit past his best, and because he hasn't really played too many minutes this season, I'm going to go for Finlay Bealham instead. Rounding out my props are going to be Will Stewart, who I think should be the starter, and Xander Fagerson of Scotland to be my 3rd choice. Bealham I would bring off the bench. As we go to the locks, Courtney Lawes has made himself available, and how happy does that make me? Because Lawes is available, I don't think there's a need to pick Mara Itoje. Lawes can play both lock and blindside flanker as Itoje can, but he's 2 centimeters taller and has far better discipline. Lawes and Itoje are both elite jackal threats, but I just think Itoje gives away too many penalties, and I think by selecting the locks I've got here, this can be a massive point of difference. Discipline is a weak spot for Australia. I know, so this can be an area where we can beat them. Ian Henderson I'm going to have as a specialist line-out caller, but just someone more for the off-field kind of mentorship stuff. Same with Lawes. I would go for Ollie Chesham and Tadhg Beirne as my starters. I don't think Ollie Chesham's going to make Andy Farrell's Lions squad, because we all know the secret is open. He's building the Lions squad around the Irish. I think, however, the fact that Chesham is taller than Itoje and gives away fewer penalties means I can one-up the Aussies in the line-out. Ryan Beard as well will offer a very similar skill set to Courtney Lawes, but ultimately the fact that he's younger, he's got a bit more legs in him, means I think he's a better utility to cover lock and 6 off the bench in comparison to Lawes. Henderson will be a great person to be in the squad, but he won't necessarily be in the matchday 23. We now get to the back row, and I want to make this back row a bit more balanced than I think Andy Farrell is going to go for. The people he's got as his assistant coaches has me thinking it's fairly obvious he's going to be starting 2 open side flankers in his starting lineup. I, however, want to balance my line out a bit more. That's why I'm going to be selecting Caelan Doris as a blindside flanker rather than a number 8. As his backup, I'm going to have Chandler Cunningham South because they are very similarly shaped, and the fact that Cunningham South has played the odd minute here and there as a lock professionally means we've got a bit of utility cover in the wider squad. As for open side flanker, I'm going to go for 3 of them. Jack Morgan is my starter, Tom Curry to come off the bench and cover all 3 positions during the Test series, and while Sam Underhill did indeed miss the Six Nations, he's returned very strongly for Bath. I don't think Underhill's going to be in contention for Andy Farrell's squad, but he is always going to be in contention for mine. People who have watched this channel for a long time know that I rate this guy very much so. Underhill is just one of those players who you know what you're going to get from, therefore I think he's an obvious choice to have in the Lions. And to finish the video with a bit of controversy, I would take Talupi Faletau on a 4th British and Irish Lions tour. The fact that he is from Wales, I think, will count against him and mean he will miss Andy Farrell's squad. I, however, think that the fact that he's been on 3 tours before is just so unbelievably invaluable. He's still got so much explosive power and a heck of a lot of pace as well, despite all the constant injuries that the poor guy has had. The closest replica you're going to get to Talupi Faletau is going to be Aaron Wainwright, also of Wales. Wainwright I can also imagine as a blindside flanker, and as everybody knows he can play 6 as well, meaning I think he'll be good to have in those midweek games. Ben Earl I wouldn't select. While England were here in New Zealand and I got to be in their camp for a little bit, let's just say I don't think Ben Earl was serious enough. He was joking around a bit too much, and in his performance a few days later, it showed. He missed a crucial tackle on Stephen Petafeta and let Ardie Savia in for a try. Aaron Wainwright, by contrast, spends a fair bit of his time in community rugby, doing some coaching, so I think would be better for the off-field culture. I'm going to recap this video for you guys by just going through my squad one more time. As you can see, I've got my hookers, props, locks, back row, halfbacks, fly halves, midfielders, and outside backs, all in the one slide, and I've built this team around a bit of a combination both of England and Ireland, with the odd Scotsman and the odd Welshman in there just to balance things out a little bit, because I want to give a bit more of a representation of the 4 nations in comparison to the fact that I think Andy Farrell will build his team around the Irish. Now, obviously this is not going to be the real Lions team. This is just a list of the guys who I rate the most and the guys that I would build my strategy around. I think strategy is a better thing to pick on rather than cohesion, because cohesion can sometimes, I know, create some infighting between guys who do and don't know the system. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section, guys. Thank you very much for watching the video. I will try to get my reaction to the Lions squad up as soon as it is out. Just give me a bit of an hour or so to edit. Thank you very much for watching the video, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers for watching. From Max.